Good morning and welcome back to Allergic to Stupidity. Bring the mic closer here, lady. Well, I hope everybody is having a good time and the hammer has finally come down and now we're having to deal with it. And the tariffs are set in. I'm not quite sure how much because I'm getting confusing messages and I've just been really busy to chase down the actual information. I heard 25% in steel and aluminum, and then I'm hearing people say it's 25% on everything, and it's like, whatever, we're just going to have to deal with it. And then Trudeau came off, and I've had people in the messages go, I would never vote for Trudeau, but geez, he did a good job. He did a speech right after the tariffs came down on Tuesday, and having been around the sun a few times, I was here for his father, and I know people had problems with Pierre, but I liked Pierre. He wasn't that in the box politician. This is how you behave, like Justin is. Like Justin's this is how we behave, and all the rest. Pierre was, do you like me? You like me. If you don't like me, you don't like me. And I liked that about Pierre. Sometimes I didn't agree with his policies, but as a person, and that part that came across, well, that's what I saw coming out of Justin yesterday. It was like, this is stupid, this is dumb. It's like that because he was a teacher. He just very controlled, but you could tell he was fuming, spitting mad at Trump doing what Trump did. And he did a really good job at talking first to the American people, and then he talked to Trump individually. He says, not that I ever read the Wall Street Journal very often, so that's out of character for me, but they're right by saying this is the dumbest thing you've ever done. Kind of mentality. And then he talked to the Canadian people, and he was honest, and he was straightforward, and he didn't buttercoat it. He didn't sugarcoat it, I should say. He didn't try to say, oh, we're going to be fine, it's going to be wonderful, which is one of my pet peeves these days. It's like, oh, don't worry. No, the ship's sinking, honey. Let's accept the fact the ship is sinking and find some rowboats we can get into. Kind of criminalize. It's truth, 100% truth. I can deal with truth. I may not like it, but I can deal with it. But don't lie to me. Don't sugarcoat it. Just be honest with me. So I really, really liked that about him, that it came across. And let's be honest, it's going to be tough. And he talked about the tariffs that Canada's putting on American product. But unlike that sweeping 25% on everything kind of mentality, the Liberal government picked and chose exactly which ones would hurt the most. And so it wasn't right across the board, and it was ones that are going to hurt the Americans, but there all are Canadian alternatives. So one of them was liquor and the bourbon, because it's going to hurt the U.S. and Kentucky because we drink a lot of Kentucky bourbon out here. And he made it so that us as Canadians, we can choose to spend that extra 25% or whatever the percent is. Or we can pick a Canadian version. And I'm going, that's fine by me. That's great. And then top it off, we have Ontario, because the videos are out already, of the LCBO taking anything that is American and putting them back in the boxes and taking them off the shelves. British Columbia's done the same thing. So that's the double whammy. But I really liked that. But we can sit there and say this isn't going to affect us. But as my kids said the other day, watching all this come down is so emotionally and physically draining. It's exhausting because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. You don't know. It's not like you're on the Titanic and it's sinking and it's all adrenaline about trying to save yourself or whatever. It's we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to come down next. What's Trump going to do next? Or J.D. Vance going to do next? Or. And that my son gets right. It's physically and emotionally draining. And I had to not laugh or smile. Or my tenant is heavily involved in scouting, and they had pancake dinner yesterday at the church, where the Scouts and the Cubs do the serving for the church. It's a church fundraiser, but the Scouts and the Cubs serve there in their cute little uniforms, do all that kind of service work, which is great. And I asked them this morning, I said, well, how'd you go last night? He said, it was empty. He said, we were really busy for the first 40 minutes. He said, but after that, it was dead. It was leaders and scouts and cubs sitting around eating, and that's it. To the point that last year they ran out of sausages and they ran out of the juice. So this time he bought extra pack of sausages, so that's 100 extra sausages, and two extra containers of juice. He brought back to the house 300 sausages. They ordered 500 because they had 400 last year in 2024. They ran out, so he said, okay, logically, I'll buy an extra 100. Don't want to run out of sausages. And they had 300 left over because people just weren't coming out. And I said, well, maybe it's the weather. Maybe, it's like I'm laughing. It's the temperature's higher, but it's rainy and thingy outside, so I'm dressed up. I got a hot cup of coffee and I've got a warm fuzzy jacket on. He says, no. He said he's watched people come out in blizzards because it's pancake dinner. And I was like, oh. He said, but something. And the only thing he and I could come up with was that people are so emotionally drained, like my son said, and so exhausted that they don't want to do anything. Like he tried to say, well, the local newspaper messed up the price tag, and I went, really? Yeah, they messed it up. They flipped the numbers around. But at the same time, and he even went, yeah, not that many. Maybe a drop because of the typo. But the church has a sign out, pancake dinner, March the 4th at whatever time, right? And yet, they had that much of a decrease. So did the tariff itself do it? Or is it just that emotional exhaustion of not knowing what's happening? Or what's happening or not happening kind of mentality that we really found that's what caused it. So the tariffs are in. Okay, now, having said that, this is my little notes. Okay, so if I keep looking down, that's because I don't want to. In all of this is what's been coming down in the last few weeks, and this one just pissed the shit out of me for corporations. Companies are insisting that boycotting companies, now these are American companies that I got this off of, like the boycotting companies like No Buy Fridays is only going to make it worse because they don't want, and he said, we don't want our profit margin to drop, so we'll just start cutting costs, which means we're going to lay people off. So stop the boycotting us companies, these companies, because you're only going to make it worse. Okay, so let's gaslight the individual buyer who's trying to make ends meet and make it our fault. Well, here's a idea. How about if you just drop your profit margin? Instead of saying I have to make a 50% profit, I only need to make a 30% profit. You do that, and you decrease how much profit you're making per month or per quarter or per year, and keep the prices down, you're literally going to have more people coming in. Like, it's as simple as that. And here's one that's going to click. I tutor. That's my side hustle. One of my side hustles. And people have got hold of me going, how much do you charge? So I tell them my rate. Coming to your house is $35 an hour. Oh, I can afford that. I said, why, what's up? Well, I contacted such and such a tutoring service for in-home. They're going to charge me $75. That's a lot, and I can't afford it. I have run out of spots on my calendar for scheduling it. And anybody else who wants, it's like, all I got left is the weekends, guys. Or if you are a high school student, oh, I'm sorry, I take that back. All my 3 to 4s for high school students are full too. Why? Because I kept it down at a price tag that I'm going to make enough money to pay my bills and put a little bit aside for savings, but keep it low enough so people can afford it. And people said, well, why are you keeping it so cheap? I went, because people can afford it. If I make it too expensive, nobody's going to come to hire me because they can't afford me. So I lose out, they lose out. But if I keep it down where they can afford it, then guess what? I'm going to be busy. Charge enough so I can pay my bills. Yes, 100%. And a little extra for savings for those rainy days when I don't have a lot of students, like next week because it's March break, so they're all off in Cancun or wherever they all. I take that back. Some of them are going skiing in Whistler, right? But if I keep it affordable, so for all these great companies, well, we have to protect our profit margin. If you decreased that percentage of your profit margin down to, like, instead of, my numbers are just out of the air, guys. Instead of 50%, we're going to make it 30%. You're going to have more people coming in. I mean, I don't shop Walmart, but why do you think people go to Walmart or Target or Zellers here in Canada? Because it's more affordable. As simple as that. Yes, there's still Zellers. We're having a couple of actual buildings reopening instead of just being someplace in the Hudson Bay. So there you go. All these lovely corporations, cut your profit margin. And the next one, I don't think this is going to be surprising anybody. I wrote this note a couple of days ago. I sort of watch the stock market because it lets me know how people are feeling. And surprise, it's dropping. And then that becomes a vicious circle, just like in 1929. The stock market started to drop. Everybody panicked. Everybody sold out, and it continued to crash. And it's tanking right now. I think this morning I read that it had down to where it was just before the election in November. Why is this surprising anybody? Anyways, that's my little chit-chatty today. Take a deep breath. One day at a time. My only suggestion to any of you is if you have a debt, start with the smallest ones only because it makes you feel better. I got rid of that debt. Pay off your debts. Pay down your charge card. Don't use that charge card unless you have absolutely, positively have to, as my charge card sits there, but it's only for, in my case, I think I've mentioned it, because my debit card isn't attached to a Visa. Online purchases I can't use with my debit card. I have to use a charge card. So I have that charge card, but it's only for online purchases. That's it. And I keep track of every purchase, so just in case somebody tries to use my card. So other than that, I hope everybody has a good day. Spring is in the air. We've had rain this morning. I went and did my morning students. Not really students, I get the kids on the bus. Find every little which way, especially these days. It's raining, and the snow is melting, and the ice is melting, and people are doing their thing. Anyways, guys, take care. Have a really good day, and we'll see you next time.